The galactic core glowed beneath Chancellor V'Korr's balcony like a living star reef. A storm of blue fusion rivers and drifting citadel stations orbiting in patient spirals. Billions lived within that light, all celebrating the same historic moment he was about to proclaim. At last, after untold millennia of searching, the coalition of ascended species had done it. They had found them, humans. The thought alone made V'Korr's hearts beat faster. His second set of eyelids fluttered as he steadied his breath. So many cycles, so many wasted expeditions toward empty worlds, dead moons, false radio ghosts, and now, at the edge of the Perseus Fringe, a long-range patrol had intercepted the unmistakable signature of a human starship. The discovery had shaken the core like an earthquake of light. Behind V'Korr, aides scurried across the marble-fused floor, calibrating holocasters, adjusting his ceremonial mantle, muttering into comm links. The Chancellor barely heard them. His mind was fixed on the moment ahead, the moment when he would speak the words that advisors had assured him would be etched into the annals of galactic civilization. "Chancellor," said his attaché, "the young and meticulous Aurelius, the broadcast matrix is aligned. Your message will reach all outer systems and frontier colonies. The coalition awaits your command." V'Korr nodded, but a subtle unease tugged at him. Not fear. He was a veteran of political storms, but something quieter, older. Like the feeling one gets when walking into a room that seems familiar despite never having visited it. It was nothing. Nerves, perhaps. The humans had been a myth for so long that speaking of them now felt strangely intimate, almost sacred. V'Korr had never believed he would live to see their unveiling. He walked to the balcony rail as the holocaster arms unfolded in a graceful flower around him. The fortress city of Vraxis Prime stretched beneath him, lights glittering like frost on obsidian. 3 moons hung overhead, pale silver crescents carved against a black sea. "On your signal, Chancellor," Aurelius whispered. V'Korr placed both hands on the rail. The galaxy hushed. He began. "Citizens of the coalition," he said, voice steady, carrying through crystal acoustic conduits and into the farthest corners of the core. "Today marks the end of an age of wandering. Holograms of alien crowds watching the feed flickered in the air before him. Dozens of species, gathered in plazas, aboard ships, in the cavernous wombs of megastations, all silent, all waiting. For generations we have searched the spiral arms for the mysterious architects of the fringe, a species ancient beyond measure, elusive beyond reason. The humans, the crowd holograms rippled with awe. We believed them lost. A myth, a wandering spark swallowed by time." V'Korr allowed himself a small smile. Yet today, the coalition claims first contact. Applause thundered from the holograms, swirling lights of celebration erupting over a dozen worlds. V'Korr felt pride swell in him, pushing away the earlier unease. This was history, his moment, his legacy. Soon we will extend the hand of diplomacy. We will, the holocasters flickered, once, twice. V'Korr paused. We will. The entire broadcast matrix cut to black. The crowds vanished. The light from the holocasters dimmed into cold skeletal outlines. Aurelius spun around. "Chancellor, the matrix just..." Static rippled through the air, crawling across the balcony like a cold wind. The lights of Vraxis Prime dimmed, buildings flickering as if a shadow had passed over the entire city. "Is this a system failure?" V'Korr demanded. "No, Chancellor." Aurelius swallowed. "This is an override." "Impossible," V'Korr snapped. "Core protocols cannot be overridden. Not from any world within the coalition." "That's the problem," Aurelius whispered. "This override, it's not coming from within the coalition." The holocasters stuttered back to life, but not with the coalition's signal. An unfamiliar sigil burned onto every projector across the balcony. A simple emblem, stark and almost primitive. A circle of 12 stars surrounding a silhouette of a human hand. V'Korr's breath froze. He had never seen this emblem before. The holocasters hummed, then projected something else. Grainy, weathered footage that looked centuries old. A shaky camera view from inside a small spacecraft cockpit. The stars visible through the viewport didn't match any current navigation charts. A timestamp in the corner displayed an ancient date. This cannot be real. Aurelis stammered. The footage stabilized. A human appeared. A man, dark-haired, eyes sharp, wearing an old generation pressure suit patched countless times. He looked exhausted, almost ill, but his voice carried with fierce clarity when he spoke. "This is Commander Elias Rohn of the Terran Farwatch Initiative," he said. "Log entry. I don't know. Day 77, 80? I've lost count." V'Korr's pulse hammered. "This cannot be," he whispered. "This footage is centuries older than the Coalition itself," Commander Rohn continued. "If anyone finds this, know that humanity is not lost. We're watching, always watching. The galaxy is bigger, darker, and stranger than anything Earth dreamed. But we're learning its rhythm." His voice dropped, suddenly raw. "And if you're not human, if you're something else out there listening, know this. We saw you first." V'Korr felt the world tilt. The human in the footage leaned closer, eyes intense. "We marked your warp trails. We mapped your relay networks. We watched you grow proud and comfortable in the core. But we never revealed ourselves. Not yet. Not until we were strong enough." Static burst, then resolved again. "But now, if you're receiving this, it means you found us. Or thought you did." A faint smile touched his lips, and not hostile, but tired, knowing, almost sad. "You don't understand. You've only discovered the version of us we allowed you to see." The feed cut to black. Aurelis staggered backward. "Chancellor, what is this?" V'Korr didn't answer. He couldn't. Something cold and ancient had awakened in his bones, the feeling that the galaxy was suddenly far, far bigger than he ever imagined. The holocasters crackled again. Aurelis shouted, "Signal from deep orbit." A new projection filled the sky, an old footage. Not a message, a live feed. The image resolved into something colossal, a ship, a human, ship long, silent, black as the void except for faint cobalt. Seams crawling like veins across its hull, a vessel so massive it dwarfed the core's largest dreadnoughts. And there were not one of them. There were hundreds, each one decloaking in silent, ghostly ripples around the galactic core. V'Korr gripped the balcony rail to keep himself standing. "No," he whispered. "This cannot be." The fleet arranged itself with precise, terrifying discipline, not closing in, not charging weapons, simply appearing, as if to remind the Coalition of something fundamental. Power need not shout to be real. A message appeared on the holocaster surface, written not in any Coalition tongue but translated automatically through some unknown algorithm. "We have watched. We have waited. Now you are ready to see us." Aurelis trembled visibly. "Chancellor, what do we do?" For the first time in his decades of leadership, V'Korr had no answer. Humanity had not been found. Humanity had revealed itself, and they had done so with the quiet confidence of a predator that had been studying its prey for centuries. Yet something in their posture was strange, not aggressive, not triumphant, purposeful, measured, even merciful, as if they carried not conquest, but warning. A cold wind swept over the balcony. V'Korr looked up at the silent human armada encircling the core and felt a presence he had not felt since childhood. Something vast and unseen, something that whispered of patterns beyond mortal comprehension. A feeling his people once described as the breath of the eternal. For a moment, he wondered, absurdly, if humans felt it too. If perhaps that unseen intelligence had guided them through the void, shaping them into something the universe could not ignore. The holocasters pulsed again. A final message emerged across every sky, every screen, every mind. "We come not to conquer, but to remind you who saw whom first." V'Korr's hearts thundered. And then, impossibly, the message shifted, forming a single closing line. "Prepare for transmission of truth." The balcony lights went dark. The planet fell into silence. All across the core, every being held their breath because humanity had returned, and the universe would never again be the same. Darkness rolled over Vraxis Prime like an eclipse of the soul. The great city, its towers, sky bridges, and fusion gardens normally blazing with neon life, fell into a blackout so complete that even the stars seemed to draw back. Watching from a cautious distance, Chancellor V'Korr stood motionless on his balcony, claws locked on the rail. breath trapped halfway between shock and something deeper. A quiet, reverent dread around him. Aides murmured in confusion. Power grids flickered. Emergency lumens powered up in stuttering pulses. Across the planet, a low vibration hummed through the crust like a warning drum. Then the hum changed. It harmonized, resonated, almost sang a single tone, deep, mournful, ancient, rolled across the core, vibrating through the bones of every living being. V'Korr felt it in his teeth, in his hearts, in the marrow of the memories his species had forgotten. What is that? Aurelis whispered, clutching her datapad like a shield. V'Korr knew. It's a carrier wave, he breathed. A transmission. The darkness shimmered. A single point of white light bloomed above the core. Not a star. Not a ship. Something else, something shaped like a tear suspended in void. Ripple of static crawled across the sky. Then a voice emerged. A human. Voicemail calm, older, weathered, by years spent in silence and starlight. Coalition. Leadership, the voice said. We apologize for the interruption. V'Korr's limbs locked. The voice continued. Your broadcast contained inaccuracies. The darkness behind the tear-shaped light stirred, revealing faint silhouettes of human ships, a silent halo encircling the core like watchful sentinels. We do not correct you out of arrogance, the voice said, but out of necessity. Misunderstanding can become fear. Fear becomes conflict, and conflict in this galaxy ends worlds. A quiet rustle spread among V'Korr's aides. Some whispered prayers to the ancients, a forgotten habit resurfacing like instinct. Even V'Korr felt a subtle weight settling across him, as if the universe itself had paused to listen. Humanity's voice was steady, but beneath the calm was something else: regret, grief, and the resolute strength of a people who had carried burdens alone for a very long time. It is time, the voice said softly, that you learned the truth. A tremor ran through the balcony. The tear of light flickered, expanding into a window of raw starlight. A hologram unfolded, not a low-res projection or diplomatic simulation, but memory. The vision showed a barren world, scorched desert, cracked bedrock, no atmosphere but dust storms swirling like angry spirits. At the center stood a human, a man in early-era EVA armor, slumped beside a crashed lander. His breathing was ragged. Each inhale a prayer he seemed unsure would be answered. A younger voice, Commander Elias Rohn, spoke through the recording. Day 30 of zero contact. Rations gone. Oxygen down to 12%. If I die, let this record survive. Let someone know we were here. V'Korr felt his throat tighten, not at the suffering, at the determination. This human wasn't begging for rescue. He was documenting, bearing witness, preparing. Even as death hovered inches away, the hologram shifted. More humans appeared, different eras, different ships, different worlds. Always alone or in small crews, always exploring edges of space the Coalition had never reached. A whispered montage of human persistence. Pilot repairing a shattered thruster with his own blood freezing on the suit seam. A biologist kneeling beside a dying alien creature, comforting it with a quiet prayer, though she knew she was the only living human for light years. A soldier writing names on a scrap of metal. Lost crewmates, etched gently as if honoring family. Then, humans shadowing. Alien fleets silently across nebulae. Humans, cloaking their presence from sensors so advanced they should not have been able to do so. Humans mapping the core long before. The core knew humanity existed, humanity. Watching the Coalition rise, stumble, grow. Night. Humans never interfering, never revealing themselves, just watching, waiting, learning. V'Korr felt something stir in his chest, an emotion he could not name. Not fear, not awe, something older, the knowledge that the universe had shifted, and that the shift was deserved. The voice returned. We did not hide out of malice, the unseen speaker said, but because we were not ready. Because the galaxy was not ready for us. The tear of light pulsed, revealing a final image one V'Korr could not comprehend. A human ship, small, fragile-looking, hovering alone before a cosmic storm of violet fire. Something within the storm moved, immense and terrifying, its silhouette brushing the borders of existence. The tiny ship held position, trembling but unbroken, as its pilot whispered, "Please, if anyone is listening, if there is a reason we're still alive, guide us through this." The storm parted. Just enough. The ship survived, not by chance. By something else. Something unseen. A presence woven through the vision like a quiet thread of order and mercy. A sense that the universe had heard that human's desperate whisper and had answered. Many of V'Korr's aides dropped to their knees, shivering. For the first time in his life, V'Korr felt the faint touch of something divine, not a being, not a form, but a calm intelligence woven through the math of creation. And humans carried that awareness like a quiet ember. Who is speaking to us? V'Korr finally found his voice. Silence, then the human voice answered. My name is Admiral Jericho Roan, brother of Commander Elias Roan, last surviving member of the Farwatch Initiative. Farwatch, the ancient human expedition the galaxy believed to be legend. Roan's voice deepened, and as of this moment, Supreme Commander of the Terran Observation Fleet. Aurelius gasped. Observation? They've been observing, V'Korr finished grimly. For centuries. The tier of light dimmed, reshaping into a man's silhouette. A tall figure outlined in soft radiance. Not visible, not fully revealed, but present. We watched, Roan said, to learn which civilization sought conquest, and which sought peace, he paused. And you, Chancellor V'Korr, have led your people better than most. The balcony fell into stunned silence. A human fleet, silent, powerful, mysterious, was praising them. Not as prey, not as rivals, but as stewards. V'Korr swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. If you've observed us so long, Admiral, why reveal yourselves now? A soft wind swept the balcony. Roan's answer carried weight. Because something is coming. The air froze. Every aide, every guard, every drone stopped breathing. Roan continued. A threat older than your coalition, older than our species, older than the core itself. V'Korr felt the cold settle into him like a shadow, and it has awakened. V'Korr forced himself to ask the question clawing at his mind. Admiral, why tell us? Why reveal your fleets to the core? Roan's silhouette brightened slightly. Because, he said softly, we cannot face what's coming alone. The silence that followed was absolute, perfect, terrifying. Then Roan spoke the words that shattered the last remnants of V'Korr's certainty. You were not the first to discover us, we were the first to trust you. V'Korr's heart slammed against his chest. Trust, humanity, mysterious, powerful, patient, had chosen them. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the most advanced, but because of something else. Something fragile and sacred. Choice, Roan added almost gently. And now, Chancellor, we need your help. The tier of light brightened until it washed the balcony in white. A message materialized across the sky. Stand by for the truth of the outer dark. The light collapsed. The darkness swallowed everything once more. But this time, the darkness felt alive, waiting, listening. And for the first time since the interruption began, V'Korr whispered, not to Roan, not to his aides, but to the unseen presence lingering in the universe's breath. Guide us, he murmured. Whoever you are, guide us. A faint warmth touched the wind. Not enough to prove anything, just enough to be felt, enough to matter. The human fleet above them remained motionless, silent. Guardians encircling the galaxy's heart, and deep inside that silence, V'Korr sensed the truth. Humanity had not arrived as conquerors. They had arrived as witnesses, as survivors, as believers, and as the harbingers of a coming storm. Silence ruled the galactic core, not the ordinary silence of empty space, not the polite hush that followed diplomacy. This was the deep, ancient silence of the universe holding its breath. Chancellor V'Korr stood near the balcony rail, the darkness around him broken only by the faint blue emergency strips glowing along the city spires. The human armada still hovered above the core, motionless, haloed in quiet authority, but V'Korr's gaze was not on the ships now. It was on the core itself, on the black sphere of fused space-time at the center of the galaxy, a phenomenon so old and colossal that no science had ever pierced its secrets. It was the gravitational heart of existence, a place where stars vanished without sound, where ancient religions claimed the universe breathed its first word. And tonight, something inside it had moved. He could feel it, not in his eyes or ears, but in his instincts, the same primitive sense that warned prey when the forest suddenly grows too quiet. Aurelis rushed back onto the balcony, datapad flickering in her trembling hands. "Chancellor," she gasped. "The core is emitting gravitational pulses." V'Korr's throat tightened. "Amplitude? Unmeasurable. Our instruments can't translate the waveforms. They're interacting with space-time in ways we've never—" A deep vibration rolled through the city, making the towers groan. V'Korr steadied himself. "Get astrophysics on the line. I want a full diagnostic of..." Before he finished, the tear-shaped light returned to the sky, unfolding into the holographic presence of Admiral Jericho Roan. His silhouette emanated a dim, starlit outline, never fully visible, yet unmistakably human. "Chancellor," Roan said, "the pulses are not random. They're signals." V'Korr's heart lurched. "Signals? From inside the core?" "Yes," Roan replied. "But they are not directed at you." Aurelis swallowed. "Then who?" Roan's tone darkened. "At us." A cold wind swept the balcony, rattling banners and whispering through the carved stone railings like a warning. The core pulsed again. This time, it was different, sharper, closer, almost sentient. V'Korr felt the vibration sink into his bones, a sensation like being watched, like something vast and patient had finally turned its gaze outward after eons of sleep. "Admiral," V'Korr forced out. "Tell us what's happening." Roan hesitated, and V'Korr knew. Humans were not warriors of blunt emotion. They hid their fear like commanders hid their deepest strategies. So if Roan hesitated, the truth was dire. "It's beginning," Roan said. "Earlier than we expected." Aurelis's voice cracked. "What is beginning?" Roan exhaled. "The outer dark is waking." V'Korr frowned, gripping the rail so tightly the stone cracked beneath his claws. "I've never heard of this outer dark," he said. "You wouldn't have," Roan replied. "We erased the traces, buried the ruins, destroyed the evidence from every world we could." His silhouette shifted as if bracing against old memories. "The outer dark," Roan continued, "is not a place. It's a hunger." The city lumens flickered. A whispering rumble spread across the sky, like an animal dragging its claws across the firmament. V'Korr felt the old instinct again, the one every species carries from the age when shadows meant predators. Hunger for what? He asked quietly. Roan answered with a cold whisper. For heat. For thought. For life. Another pulse struck the world, making the balcony shudder. "Long before either of our civilizations existed," Roan said, "there were things in this galaxy that fed on stars, drained worlds of their energy, stripped galaxies of motion." He paused. "They devoured everything, until something stopped them." V'Korr leaned forward. "Stopped them? Who, a species?" Roan shook his head. "We don't know. But something, maybe cosmic, maybe divine, forced the entities into hibernation deep within the gravitational heart of the galaxy." The Admiral's voice grew heavy. "We found the first traces 2 centuries ago. The Farwatch discovered the remains of a dead system, a cluster of planets frozen mid-orbit, their cores hollowed out, their suns dimmed to stone." V'Korr shuddered. "How could no coalition probe detect such a place?" Roan answered quietly, "Because humans were the only ones desperate enough to explore the places sane species avoid." The core pulsed again, this time with rhythmic precision, not hunger. Calling. V'Korr felt his skin crawl. Aurelis whispered, "Admiral, how are they waking?" Roan's answer was soft. "You did it." V'Korr staggered. "Us? How?" Roan's silhouette flickered. "Your broadcast. Your triumphant declaration of discovering us. Your energy spikes. The synchronized swell of communication across thousands of worlds." V'Korr's hearts dropped. "It acted like a beacon," Roan finished. "A flare of life. A feast." The core pulsed again, deeper, more eager. V'Korr exhaled shakily. "We triggered their awakening? You accelerated it. But the outer dark would have risen eventually." Roan paused. "And that," he added, "is why we finally revealed ourselves." A thunderous crack ripped through the sky. Not sound. Space-time itself buckling. The core flared white. Every building on Vraxis Prime trembled. The air grew heavy. The city lights died a second time, plunging everything into a void so pure it felt like the universe had been erased. Then, slowly, the core's darkness shifted. Something moved inside it, not a shape, not a creature, a distortion, like the outline of a mouth if a mouth could swallow light, physics, and causality all at once, Aurelis cried out. V'Korr grabbed her arm, steadying both of them. What is that? She stammered. Roan spoke with grim clarity. An eye. V'Korr's voice cracked. An eye of what? Roan's answer chilled the balcony. Of the sleeper. The eye widened. The stars behind it bent like glass under heat. Roan continued. The outer dark doesn't attack worlds directly. It sends eyes, scouts that feed on thought and fear. If left unchecked, they tear open paths for the larger entities to emerge. The eye blinked. Shadows rippled across the core. Aurelis whispered, Can it see us? Yes, Roan said. A cold dread flooded V'Korr's veins. How do we stop it? Roan lifted his head slowly. You don't. A pulse surged from the eye. Black lightning arcing across the core's gravity waves. Cities' shields flared. Towers bent. Orbiting stations drifted off axis. But we do. Roan finished. The silent human armada came alive. Not with weapons, with light. 1,000 cobalt lines ignited across the hulls of human vessels. Ancient, elegant, terrifyingly beautiful. Their formation shifted into a perfect sphere around the core, aligning with mathematical precision so exact it felt like choreography. Roan raised a hand, silhouette glowing. Stand ready. Phase engines to full. Keep the lattice stable. A deep harmonic hum spread through the fleet, a resonance that vibrated through reality. Core gasped. You're forming a barrier. Not a barrier, Roan corrected. A veil. Something our ancestors discovered long ago. Something we've refined through centuries of watching, preparing, praying. The word praying caught V'Korr's ear. Quiet, subtle, human, and somehow fitting. Roan continued. We can't destroy the sleeper, but we can put it back to sleep. The eye twisted. The core warped around it. Roan raised his voice. Lock lattice anchors. All ships synchronized. The hum intensified. Stars flickered. The core pulsed. Violently, like a heartbeat trying to break free, and then something strange happened. The light around the human fleet shimmered, bent, softened, as if a gentle hand had smoothed the edges of the universe. V'Korr felt a warmth at his back. A presence not human, not alien, something greater, quieter, older, a whisper in the fabric of reality. Hold. The human fleet aligned, the veil formed, and the eye recoiled, shrieking silently, folding inward as the barrier pressed it back toward the core. The core dimmed, calmed. The eye shrank, and with a final, furious ripple, it vanished. The universe exhaled. Aurelis collapsed to her knees, sobbing in relief. V'Korr gripped the rail, shaking. The human ships dimmed their light. Only Roan's silhouette remained. It's contained, he said softly. For now. V'Korr exhaled, trembling. If this outer dark is real, if it can wake again, then why show us this? Why reveal yourselves at all? Roan was quiet. Then, because now that it has sensed you, it won't forget. A cold wind swept the balcony. Roan continued. You're part of this fight now, Chancellor, whether you wished it or not. V'Korr swallowed hard. And what do we do next? Roan's silhouette leaned forward. You listen. The tear-shaped light brightened, and you learn the real history of the galaxy. The emergency klaxons still howled through the Titan's fall. As the last tremors of the starship's impossible survival faded, sparks drifted from ruptured conduits like dying fireflies. Air filtration systems groaned. Even the deck plates hummed with the residual shockwaves of the gravitational event they had no right to endure. And yet, they were alive. Arik Vance stood amid the chaos of the shattered command deck, breath ragged, adrenaline burning in his veins like rocket fuel. Around him, crew members began pulling themselves up from the floor, dazed, bruised, but breathing, human, stubborn, unbroken. Arik's eyes swept the room. Selah. her luminous cyan blood streaking her forehead. Rourke, still reeling from a concussion, gripping the railing like it was the only thing anchoring him to reality. Kest, the Threx engineer, mandibles clattering softly in shock. Liara Solari, their enigmatic technomancer ally, expression unreadable behind flickering holographic lenses. And at the center of them all, the ship's core, an experimental hybrid engine of human design, still pulsed with a dim, angry heartbeat as if it too had survived only through sheer will. Arik exhaled a shaky breath. They'd stared into the collapse of a gravity well and come out intact. Humans weren't supposed to do that, no species was. Sela pushed herself to her feet. Arik, what you did? No Terrican, no anything organic should have been able to withstand that. He wiped sweat and soot from his brow. Then it's a good thing I'm not most people. Weak laugh rippled through the crew, relief, disbelief, awe, but underneath it all simmered, something darker because the momentary victory did nothing to change the truth. They were still hunted, still outnumbered, still every bit as vulnerable as before, and the one hunting them would not stop. The hollow terminal crackled. Arik's stomach tightened. Not now. Not her. The projection materialized. Empress Kalyra of the Dominion. Her presence alone seemed to darken the deck. The air thickened, pressure rising with the weight of her telepathic resonance. Her eyes, obsidian pools swirling like a quiet storm, locked onto Arik. Behind him, several crew members involuntarily stepped back. Kalyra never called twice in one cycle unless Captain Vance. Her voice was oil and steel. You continue to defy every statistical outcome I calculate. Arik wiped the soot from his palms, straightened. Good to know I'm consistently ruining your day. A ripple of irritation creased her usually unreadable expression. You survived a gravity pulse that should have vaporized your vessel, she continued. In doing so, you have, once again, forced a recalibration of Dominion models regarding Terran resilience. Rourke muttered. Translation, we pissed her off by not dying. Arik didn't smile. Because Kalyra's voice had shifted, barely, but enough for him to feel it in his bones. Something was different, something was wrong. State your business, he said. Kalyra inclined her head slowly, like a queen addressing a defiant knight. The Imperator has issued a formal mandate of subjugation on your species. Silence crashed across the command. Deck mandate, not a decree, not a sanction. Mandate meant one thing: total conquest. Planetary occupation, forced. Allegiance, cultural erasure, the end of humanity. Liara's voice was soft but trembling. She's not lying. Arik's jaw clenched. Of course she's not lying. She's announcing the execution of 8 billion people. Kalyra's gaze softened, only by a fraction, but enough for him to see the fractal complexity behind her eyes. Not execution, she said quietly. Just correction, Sela hissed. Your empire doesn't correct. It consumes. Kalyra ignored her. Captain, she said, and the word carried weight. Turn yourself over to me, alone. Now, and I will argue on your species' behalf before the Imperator. I cannot guarantee amnesty, but I can ensure survival. Arik stared at her. Rourke grabbed his arm. Don't you dare. Kest's mandibles clattered anxiously. It is a trap, Captain. A perfect one, but still a trap. Liara's holographic lenses brightened. She means what she says, but that doesn't make it safer. Sela's voice was raw. You go with her, Arik, and we lose you. Humanity loses its one unpredictable advantage. Kalyra's expression flickered just slightly, as if pained. You misunderstand, she said. I am not asking, because I want to see you kneel. Her eyes locked onto Arik's. I am asking because the Imperator has never once encountered a variable he could not predict. You are the first anomaly in Dominion history. Your defiance is rewriting our models faster than our systems can. Dapt. Arik felt the air thin around him. Oh, strange mix of pride and dread swirled in his gut. So you're afraid, he said quietly. Kalyra's gaze sharpened. Not of you, she said, but of what the Imperator will do to you. Tension in the room snapped taut. Arik stepped forward until only a meter separated him from her projection. You really think I'd hand myself over so he'll go easy on Earth? Kalyra's voice softened to a whisper. I think you are the only being he considers worth breaking personally. The crew stiffened. Arik felt something cold unfurl in his chest. Kalira continued, "You have become a myth inside the Dominion, a statistical impossibility, and myths are dangerous things. The Imperator cannot allow them to spread," Rourke spat. "We'll make sure the only thing spreading is his ashes." Kalira turned to him, eyes pulsing with faint telepathic energy. "Bravado does not shield you from orbital bombardment." "Enough," Arik snapped. The Empress met his eyes again. "Come with me, Captain. I will hide you where even the Imperator's calculations cannot reach. In doing so, you will save your world." Arik stepped closer until he could see the faint fractal shimmer under her irises. "And what do you want?" he asked. Her answer came instantly. "You alive." A fragile silence hung between them. Then she added, "And unbroken." Arik exhaled slowly. He hated this, hated the truth in her voice, hated the cold, logical dread pooling in his stomach. Because she was right. The Imperator wouldn't settle for conquering Earth. Not while Arik Vance existed. He wanted the anomaly. He wanted the human who refused to kneel but surrendering, letting Kalira take him away, dooming his crew. Arik shook his head. "No." Kalira's expression fractured, something between fury and fear. "Arik." "No," he repeated, steel behind every letter. "I'm not leaving my people. I'm not abandoning Earth, and I'm sure as hell not giving myself to a tyrant who thinks humanity is a puzzle he can solve." Kalira's jaw tightened. "You are choosing extinction. I'm choosing freedom." The hologram flickered as her composure cracked for the first time. "This is not bravery," Kalira whispered. "This is suicide." Arik stepped even closer. "No, Kalira." His voice was quiet. "Controlled, dangerous. This is humanity. We don't fold. We don't kneel. We don't get erased because a god emperor decides we're inconvenient." Her eyes widened, ever so slightly. "And if the Imperator wants to break me," Arik added, "he'll have to come do it himself." Kalira stared at him as if memorizing every angle of his face, as if imprinting the moment into her soul. Then, slowly, painfully, she shook her head. "Very well." The temperature on the command deck plummeted. "Then prepare yourself, Captain Vance." Her voice became colder than the void. "Because he is coming." The projection shattered like glass. And for a heartbeat, the Titan's fall felt painfully, impossibly silent. "Arik." "What now?" Sela stepped beside him. Arik stared at the empty space where Kalira had stood. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "We get ahead of him." Liara blinked. "Ahead of the Imperator? Do you even hear yourself?" "Yes," he said. Rourke crossed his arms. "Cap, you got a plan?" Arik turned, and the expression on his face, half wild, half visionary, made every person in the room straighten unconsciously. "Oh, I have a plan." He pointed toward the star map. "To beat a god emperor." His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "You don't fight him head on. You hit him where he least expects it." Sela frowned. "Which is?" Arik tapped the star cluster glowing in red. "The Dominion's heart. Its power core. Its greatest vulnerability. If someone insane enough tried to reach it." Arik smiled a slow, dangerous, human smile. "We're going to the Citadel." The crew stared at him like he'd announced he was punching a supernova. Rourke's voice broke the silence. "You're out of your mind." "Probably," Arik said. "But that's exactly why it's going to work." Liara exhaled, stunned. "Arik, the Citadel is impossible to infiltrate." Arik cracked his knuckles. "Good thing I make a habit of doing the impossible." The Titan's fall drifted through the starlit darkness like a wounded predator, scarred, battered, and impossibly defiant. The hum of the hybrid core echoed through the deck, still unstable, still angry from the gravity. Well, they had survived. In the quiet aftermath of Kalira's warning, a current of electric tension ran through the ship. Every crew member felt it. Something ancient was moving, something older than empires, something that should never have been aware of humanity, but now was, and it was. Coming, Arik Vance stood before the star map, its holographic constellation shifting like living ink. The Dominion's territory glowed in bright violet, thousands of systems linked in a lattice of power and fear. At the center of it all pulsed the impossible structure known across the galaxy by a single name. The Citadel. Sela, Rourke, Kest, and Liara gathered around him. Rourke crossed his arms. So, Captain, when you said hit him where he least expects it, you meant literally flying into the beating heart of a galactic empire. Arik nodded. Exactly. That's not strategy, Rourke muttered. That's a death wish wrapped in a power fantasy. Arik shot him a grin. Then it's a good thing we're very good at surviving death wishes. Sela stepped closer, her tone more serious. Arik, the Citadel isn't just a fortress. It's the Imperator's throne world. It's where his ascendant guard is born, where his telepathic lattice is strongest, where entire species have vanished. Arik's expression sharpened. Good. That means if we hit him there, it hurts, Liara interjected softly, holographic runes flickering across her gauntlets. Captain, the Citadel is wrapped in something more than metal and shields. There are energies there we don't fully understand. It's as close to godhood as the Dominion gets. Kest's mandibles clicked nervously. It is the one place in the galaxy where probability itself bends to the Imperator's will. Arik turned slowly, meeting each of their stares with steady resolve. Then we'll bend harder. Silence. Even the air felt like it held its breath. Sela placed a hand on the star map controls, dimming the glowing field. Arik, talk to us. She paused, something trembled behind her calm facade. This plan, it's not just a strategy, it's personal. Arik didn't deny it. It is personal, he said quietly. He targeted Earth. He targeted humanity. And now he wants to break us, break me, to prove some twisted point about inevitability. He looked around at the crew he trusted with his life, so I'm going to show him the one thing he can't predict. Rourke raised a brow. Oh, and what's that? Arik's voice became a whisper forged of steel and fire. Human stubbornness. Liara's expression shifted. Her lenses retracted, showing her real eyes. Deep, fractured silver. Arik, the Imperator knows the moment your plan formed. I felt his lattice shiver. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. He is aware of you, more aware than any other being in existence. Sela stiffened.
He can't hear us, can he?
No, Liara said. Not yet, but he is watching the threads of probability around you. Arik chuckled darkly. Then let's give him a show, far away. Beyond the spiral arms of the galactic core, a throne of dark matter pulsed with the heartbeat of a star. The Imperator, a being older than recorded time, wrapped in living fractal armor, opened his eyes. Billions of telepathic channels whispered through his mind. But one burned brighter than all the rest, a single human, soul wild, unpredictable, refusing to break. The Imperator spoke a single word, and the entire chamber shifted around him. Arik. With that whisper, a billion AI-driven minds calculated and recalculated, probability graphs twisted, timelines shivered. He rose from his throne. The galaxy trembled. Rourke pounded a crate open, revealing racks of gear. If we're really doing this insane thing, we're gonna need new toys. He tossed Arik a reinforced kinetic vest. And don't give me that I don't need armor macho crap. You're stubborn, not bulletproof. Kest unrolled a shimmering lattice sphere. This is a quantum scatter shield. It will disrupt Dominion tracking for short intervals. Arik raised a brow. Stolen from them? Kest made a clicking laugh. Borrowed permanently. Sela assembled her plasma glaive, the blade humming with lethal grace. If the Imperator sees us coming, I want him to remember what fear feels like. Liara approached Arik last. She held a small device, a crystalline shard wrapped in energy filaments. What's that? Arik asked. A failsafe. Arik frowned. For what? Liara hesitated. Then she stepped closer, her voice trembling. For you. The shard pulsed faintly. It will hide your mind if the Imperator tries to break into it, but it won't last long, minutes maybe. Arik took it gently as though it were a beating heart. Thank you. Liara lowered her eyes. For all that you are doing, we owe you more than thanks. One by one the crew drifted back to their stations, but Sela stayed behind. She approached Arik slowly, as if crossing a battlefield. Arik, can I speak plainly? You always do, she exhaled. Do you have a death wish? Arik blinked. No. Then why does it feel like you're running toward him instead of away? Arik leaned against the table, suddenly tired. It's not about running toward him. Then what? He looked up, meeting her gaze fully. It's about making sure he never reaches Earth. Her expression softened. You carry too much. So does everyone who gives a damn. She stepped closer, barely an arm's length away. Just promise me something. Arik tilted his head. Sella's voice dropped to a whisper. Don't let him be the one to break you. Arik's reply carried the quiet fury of a man built from fire. He won't. The Threx engineer scuttled into the room, mandibles clattering anxiously. Captain, urgent anomaly. The Imperator's vanguard is mobilizing. Entire fleets, Arik's eyes narrowed. Heading where? Kess swallowed. Everywhere, except the one direction we're about to go. Rourke let out a low whistle. He knows we're coming and he's clearing the board. No, Arik said. A spark of dangerous determination lit his features. He's confident, overconfident. He thinks we won't dare. Sela exhaled. That's exactly why we have. Two of the ship's engines roared to life. The hybrid core surged with electric fury, stabilizing enough for one more insane jump. The star map lit up, plotting a route no sane ship had ever taken into Dominion territory. Liara whispered, "The moment we do this, there is no return." Arik placed his hand on the console. Then let's make it. Count Sela prepared the weapons. Rourke calibrated the shields. Kest stabilized the quantum coils. Liara synchronized with the core. Every crew member held their breath. The ship shuddered. Lights flickered. Reality. Bent Arik whispered to his crew. We're humanity. We don't wait to be hunted. He locked eyes with Sela. We strike first. Sela nodded. Into the jaws of the monster. Arik smiled. No, we make the monster choke. The Titans fall, launched into the slipstream. Tunnel of fractured light engulfed them. The hybrid core screamed. Time distorted. Space folded like paper as they hurtled into the impossible. Arik felt a presence. Cold, endless watching. The Imperator's voice echoed across space-time. Come then. Little anomaly. Come and be unmade. Arik grinned into the void. Every fiber of his being burning. Not today. The stars tore apart and the Titan's fall streaked toward the Citadel. The slipstream tunnel tore itself apart around the Titan's fall, collapsing into ribbons of dying light as the ship screamed back into real space. Panels flickered. Gravity wavered. The hybrid core spat arcs of blue fire across the engine bay. And then, silence. Not the calm kind. The predatory kind. Arik Vance stood slowly from the command chair, steadying himself as the universe reassembled outside the glass. Rourke cursed under his breath. Kest froze mid-crawl. Liara's lenses dilated, trembling. Sela stepped forward, hands tightening around her plasma glaive, because hanging before them was a sight no living creature had ever truly survived describing. The Citadel. Not a station, not a fortress, not a world, a wound. Tear in space so immense it dwarfed stars. Tendrils of fractured geometry extended outward like frozen lightning, wrapped in a lattice of shimmering obsidian armor. At its heart pulsed a sphere of condensed night, deeper than black, shimmering with distant screams of bent probability. Thousands of Dominion dreadnoughts encircled it like loyal serpents around a god. Kest whispered, mandibles clicking weakly. By the first breath, this place should not exist. Liara's voice trembled. It doesn't. Not by the laws any sane universe obeys. Arik stepped closer to the viewport, eyes steady so we break its laws. The crew stared at him like he had invited them to punch a singularity. The darkness inside the Citadel stirred, just a flicker, just a ripple, but it felt like a cold hand brushing the back of every skull aboard the Titan's fall. Kest recoiled. He knows we're here. The Imperator has seen us. No, Liara whispered. He has felt us. The lights dimmed. The hull groaned. A pressure slammed into the ship, not physical but psychic, like a gravity wave made of thought. Arik staggered, gripping the rail. For a moment his vision blurred, and he wasn't on the ship anymore. He was standing on a shattered plain of obsidian dust, under a black sky filled with broken stars. Towers twisted in impossible spirals, bending inward as though worshipping. A throne made of living dusk. On that throne sat a figure, the Imperator. Not fully visible, not fully defined, more concept than form, a humanoid shadow wrapped in layers of fractal armor that rippled like a living eclipse. 2 eyes glowed where a face should be. Not white, not red, color that had no name in any language. The Imperator spoke without moving. "You are far from home." Arik Vance. Arik's breath caught. He wasn't paralyzed. Strangely, impossibly, he could still think, still move. The Imperator rose from the throne. Reality bent as he stood. "You carry defiance like a disease." Arik grit his teeth. "Good, hope you're allergic." A ripple spread across the broken plane and Arik was slammed back into his body. He gasped, stumbling to one knee. Sela caught him instantly. "Arik, what happened?" He wiped blood from his nose. "He invited me in." Liara shook her head violently. "No, he dragged you in." Rourke snapped. "Captain, if he can pull you into his mind across half a star system, what happens when we get closer?" Arik rose, jaw clenched. "Then we don't get closer slowly." Before they could react, the bridge lights flickered again, this time in a softer rhythm. A sphere of silver-blue light materialized, unfolding into Kalira's avatar. Her expression was uncharacteristically tight. "Fearful. Arik," she whispered. "You should not be here." "Too late," Arik replied. "No," she said sharply. "You don't understand. I was once ascendant. I felt the Imperator's mind, his lattice, his hunger." Her gaze fell to the view outside. "The Citadel is not a fortress. It is a mouth. And you are standing on its tongue." The words hit like a blade. Sela swallowed hard. "Can we still pull out?" Kalira's eyes dimmed. "He has anchored you. The moment you entered this system, he locked probability around your ship. You have no exit vector," Rourke groaned. "So we're stuck here with the galaxy's worst god cosplay maniac." "Fantastic." Kalira's voice cracked. "Arik, if you go deeper, he will reach into your mind. He will find what you fear most. And he will not kill you. He will convert you." Arik stepped toward her projection. "And if we turn back?" Kalira held his gaze. "Then he will follow." The words landed like a final verdict. Kest whispered, horrified, "There is no safe path." Arik nodded slowly. "Exactly." Arik's voice was steady, but inside he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Doubt. He looked at his crew, people who had followed him through impossible odds, through battles that should have ended them, through scars that still woke them at night. "What I'm asking," he said quietly, "is not fair. If we go on, you're risking your minds, not just your lives." Silence. Sela stepped forward first. "Arik, you once dragged me out of a burning wreck of a prison transport. You told me my life wasn't over. You told me I wasn't broken." She lifted her glaive. "I follow you," Rourke smirked. "Well, hell. If she's in, I'm in. Besides, nobody else gets to yell at you properly." Kest raised all 4 hands. "I pledged my claws to your cause the day you spared my homeworld." "I go where you lead." Liara looked up, eyes trembling. "Rick, I am scared," he softened. "So am I." She nodded, wiping her cheek. "Then let's be scared together." Kalira's hologram dimmed, her expression both proud and tormented. "Very well," she said. "Then I will guide you to the one place his sight is weakest." Rourke blinked. "He has a weak spot?" Kalira turned toward the Citadel. "All gods do." Kalira pointed toward a region of swirling black geometry, almost invisible amid the chaos. "That fracture there, where the architecture ripples, that is where his telepathic lattice is thinnest. A flaw in the structure, a wound even he cannot fully close." Sela narrowed her eyes. "What caused it?" Kalira hesitated, then whispered, "Humanity." Arik stiffened. "Explain." Kalira's projection flickered with something like awe. 2 centuries ago, before the Imperator stabilized the Citadel, a human expedition attempted to sabotage it. They failed, but their resistance left a scar, a pattern of defiance he could not erase. Liara trembled. "So humans wounded him?" "A scratch," Kalira said softly. "But even a scratch on a god is a miracle." Rourke grinned. "Good. Let's turn the scratch into a crater." Arik stared at the fracture, an almost imperceptible curl in reality. "Set course," he ordered. Kest scurried to the controls. Trajectory locked. The Titan's fall rotated slowly, aligning with the impossible rip in spacetime. Kalira's voice softened. Arik. The moment you cross the threshold, he will feel you directly. He will reach into your mind. Arik exhaled. Let him try. Kalyra trembled. He already has. The ship shook. Lights flickered. A cold voice seeped through the hull. Not through speakers. Not through comms, through thought. I offered you a path. Arik Vance, the bridge fell silent. A place beside me. A throne forged from your potential. Arik spat a breath. I'd rather die. You misunderstand. The Citadel pulsed. The system trembled. Your death was never the plan. A pause. A whisper. I intend to keep you. Arik's heartbeat thundered. Sela moved closer. Liara grabbed his arm, and the Imperator's final words cut. Through the bridge. Come to me. Human, and let me shape you into what you were always meant to be. The Titan's fall plunged into the fracture. Reality shuddered, and everything went black. The Vanguard's crown drifted through the broken nebula like a wounded Titan, its hull still glowing from the thunderstorm of weapons that had torn through it mere hours ago. Emergency bulkheads hummed. Crackling power conduits cast intermittent blue flashes across the central corridor. Every step echoed with the ship's exhaustion, and yet, humanity pressed forward, because that was what humans did. Commander. Ari Cassian wiped soot and dried plasma from his jaw as he entered the inner war room. Even depleted, even limping, humanity's flagship still radiated an aura of defiance. Around the circular holotable stood his surviving officers, each bruised, bandaged, but burning with stubborn resolve. Ari's voice was low, roughened by smoke and stress. All right, we made it out alive, barely. Status? Talia, his chief engineer, leaned forward, holographic flames dancing across her face. Fission's spine is cracked in 3 places. Jump drive is fried. We have maybe 40% power if I rip life support out of half the decks. Hull integrity is holding only because it's too tired to fall apart. A few officers chuckled bitterly. Ari didn't. And weapons? Primary cannons gone. Rail batteries 3 functional. Missile racks empty except for decoys. Talia exhaled sharply. Commander, we can't win another fight. Not like that. Ari leaned forward, bracing his palms against the table. Then we don't fight like that. The holotable flickered, projecting a sphere of crystalline blue, the Vaith Dominion capital, seat of the enemy that had made the first strike against the frontier colonies. Towers spiraled into the sky like frozen lightning. Defense rings orbiting the planet glowed with enough firepower to vaporize fleets. Ari traced one finger across the projection. We know the Dominion's coming for us again. We know why. The Prime Conclave won't allow an upstart species to survive after defying them. He tapped the sphere. But they underestimated us. They always do. Silence settled. Heavy. Tense. Then Admiral Mara Juno, older than the wars she'd fought, stepped from the shadows of the chamber. Her uniform was torn, one arm in a sling. But her voice retained the steel that had carried countless soldiers through the darkest moments of the Terran reawakening. Ari, she said quietly, tell them the rest. He hesitated. This was the part he'd hoped to postpone. But humanity's officers stared at him with the same fire reflected in every Terran who'd crawled out of the mud, out of history, out of extinction-level events, and said, not today. He typed a command, and the projection shifted, showing a star. Small and dim, not dim by nature, dim because something was devouring it. An obsidian structure, hexagonal, monstrous, mechanical, was wrapped around the star like a metallic parasite. Tendrils plunged into the photosphere, siphoning energy into massive conduits. Gasps filled the room. Talia whispered, That can't be real. It's real, Ari said. The Apex engine. A weapon, an impossible weapon of gravitational manipulation built by the Vaith long before the Dominion. Fractured into political houses, Ari zoomed. Out and tangled along the star's magnetic field was a web-like array of pulse gates, ancient. Highways of force the Dominion no longer had the knowledge to repair or replicate. But the Apex engine had reactivated them. One gate pulsed red, locked onto the Dominion capital. Ari hammered the point home. This is why they want us dead. Because we found it. Because we're the only species desperate and reckless enough to try to use it. Shock rippled through the room. Commander, one officer said slowly, that thing could collapse half a sector. Or, Ari replied, it could buy the galaxy a future. He straightened. Listen carefully. In 6 days, the Dominion will launch their purification fleet. They won't negotiate. They won't blockade. They'll erase Earth, Luna, Mars, the frontier. Every colony, every drift hab, every free settlement we built. It'll be the remnant wars all over again, except this time, humanity actually has something to lose. He stabbed a finger toward the projected star. Machine, so we hit them first. A ripple of fear, tempered by determination, moved across the room. Admiral Juno stepped forward beside Ari. We're not using the Apex to destroy their world, she said. We're using it to disrupt their gravity lattice. Just enough to shut down their fleet yards, their slipspace gates, their weapons grids. Ari's voice hardened. We don't want mass death. We want time. A window. He swept his gaze across the room. Time to show them that humans don't kneel, that we won't be erased, that standing against us will always cost more than they're willing to pay. One officer asked the question everyone was thinking. Even if we succeed, the crown isn't battle-ready. We can barely move, Ari smiled faintly. We're humans. We'll make it move. He looked at Talia. Tell them. Talia straightened, wiping grime from her brow. We can rig a temporary jump burn using the fission spine. It'll tear the ship apart slowly, but it'll get us to the Apex system. She pointed to a fluctuating graph. And once there, we can hook the crown directly into one of the engine's power vents. Her eyes glittered. We turn the entire ship into a conduit. A control key. Someone breathed. A human ship. Piloting a superweapon? Exactly, Ari said. No AI in the galaxy is crazy enough to do it. But we are. Another officer, younger, hesitant. What happens to us if the feedback loops collapse? Ari didn't sugarcoat it. We die. But if we don't try? Mara asked quietly. We die louder. Silence again. Quieter this time, heavier but steadier. A silence shaped by acceptance. Then gradually, it shifted, became resolve. Humans didn't fear impossible odds. Impossible odds feared humans. Ari touched the table, and the hologram turned into a pulsing timeline. 6 days until Dominion. Purification, 3 days to reach the Apex star. 5 hours of power before the crown spine melts. 1 chance to hijack the Apex's ancient graviton core. He met every gaze in the room. This is bigger than vengeance, he said. This is about survival. About our right to exist. About every child on Soul's cradle who deserves to grow up without an empire's boot on their neck. He paused. And about proving to the galaxy that humanity doesn't just fight. His voice dropped, electric with conviction. We outthink, outbuild, outlast, and when necessary, we outcrazy every species out there. A low rumble of fierce, almost feral laughter filled the chamber. Ari glanced at Mara. Admiral, give the order. She touched the comm interface on her wrist. All across the ship, intercom speakers crackled to life. Her voice, battered but unbreakable, echoed through every deck. Terrans of the Crown. Prepare for the impossible. Repair teams to stations. All crew brace for emergency jump burn. This is not a retreat. This is the opening strike. Thunderous cheers erupted. Raw, ragged, defiantly alive. Ari breathed deep as the ship's engines trembled awake. Panels dimmed. Lights flickered, but the Crown obeyed. It always did. As he left the war room, Mara fell into step beside him. You know, she murmured, there's no going back from this. Ari looked at the scarred steel beneath his boots. We never had a back to go to. Admiral. The Crown lurched, gravity fluctuated, alarms chimed in warning. Talia's voice crackled over the intercom. Drive ignition in 30 seconds. This is either going to be history or a smoking legend. Ari took his seat at the command throne. Screens burst to life around him. Crew strapped in. The stars outside twisted as the damaged drive spun up. He whispered, Humanity. Hold on. A blinding surge of white-blue energy consumed the viewport. The Crown vanished into a rift of tearing space. Destination. The Apex engine mission, survival outcome. Unknown, but against the infinite dark. One promise burned brighter than the stars. Humanity was not done, not by a long shot. Space did not explode when the Vanguard's crown emerged from its jump burn. It screamed. Reality folded and unfolded, like a cosmic wound trying to close around a ship that refused to die. The crown burst into existence, trailing a comet's tail of shattered light in stressed spacetime, her hull glowing white-hot from the abuse. Sparks burst across the bridge. Crew braced against the violent shudder rolling through the decks. Talia's voice crackled through the intercom. Drive is melting. Shut it down. Shut it down. Ari slammed the emergency cutoff. The crown lurched, like a living thing relieved of a burden too great to bear. Alarms howled. Smoke curled from vents, but they had arrived. Ari lifted his eyes to the viewport, and every rational thought froze. The apex engine filled half the visible sky, a mechanical construct the size of moons, wrapped around a dying star like a black iron crown. Hexagonal pylons pulsed with unnatural rhythms. Tendrils, thicker than cities, pierced the star's surface, drawing out matter in streams of molten gold. Ari whispered, "Gods help us." Mara stood beside him, her voice hollow. No gods built that. She was right. This was older than the Dominion, older than the Conclave, maybe older than the galaxy's known empires. The apex pulsed, slow, deliberate, predatory, as, if aware of the newcomers, the crown drifted closer on flickering impulse engines. Every sensor screamed under the gravitational storm washing over the ship. Talia's frantic report cut through the terror. "We have 5 hours before the spine collapses. After that, we drift into the star." Ari steadied himself. "Then we make those 5 hours count." Behind the fear, beneath the awe, something primal stirred in every human aboard. This was the impossible, the forbidden, the suicidal, which meant, for humanity, this was familiar ground. The crown glided toward the nearest power vent, a cyclopean aperture that spewed radiant plasma into space like a stellar waterfall. Magnetic arcs lashed out in all directions. The ship shuddered as the vent's gravity tore at the hull plating. "Closer," Ari ordered. Talia swore loudly over comms. "Closer," he says, "like the damn star isn't trying to eat us." Still she guided the engines. The vent loomed. Its interior rotated like interlocking gears of molten energy. This was their doorway into the heart of a machine built to enslave a star. Mara leaned forward. "Commander, once we connect, there's no way to pull back. The feedback could destroy us in seconds." Ari gripped the armrests. "We don't need seconds. We need control." And humanity had always excelled at wresting power from things no sane species touched. "All hands," he said over shipwide comm. "Brace for tether. Deployment." The crown extended 3 massive anchor conduits, mechanical harpoons, built for attaching to asteroid cores and orbital megastructures, not star-devouring engines, but humanity rarely used tools the way they were designed. "Fire anchors," Ari barked. The conduits launched, slamming into the apex vent with teeth of superheated tungsten. Energy surged through them, wild, furious, almost alive. The crown convulsed. Half the bridge crew were thrown from their stations. Lighting died. Then emergency crimson strobes ignited, painting the bridge in blood-colored flashes. Talia's voice was barely audible over the static howl. "Contact achieved. We have power feedback. Containment failing." Ari overrode the safeties. "Lock conduits. Full fusion grid shunt." The moment he hit the command, the entire ship screamed. Every deck vibrated, like a tuning fork hammered by a god. Energy surged into the crown more than it was ever designed to hold. Panels burst, sparks rained. Ari felt the heat through his command chair. But the anchors held. They had bridged humanity's warship with a machine built to rewrite gravitational constants, and the machine reacted. A tone reverberated through the hull, deep, resonant, unmistakably artificial. Lights raced across the apex structure, forming patterns that spiraled across its pylon network. Ari whispered, "It's waking up." Mara's jaw tightened. "No. It's asking who touched it." A burst of alien code flooded the crown's main systems. Symbols, equations, fractal logic loops designed for minds that measured time and star cycles. The ship's AI immediately buckled under the load. "Override." Ari snapped. "Human manual control only." Talia responded instantly, cutting the AI out and rerouting raw data into a human-readable compression. Text filled the air. "Identify. You are not Vaith. You are not authorized. Trespass will be erased." Mara whispered, "It's a sentience." "No," Ari said, "it's a protocol." The pattern shifted. "You are small. You are temporal. You are unfit to touch the core. Remove yourselves or be purged." Ari straightened. "Open a channel." The bridge officers stared at him like He'd grown a second head, Mara hissed. You want to talk to a machine built to kill civilizations? No, Ari said calmly. I want it to understand who we are. He activated the transmission. A single sentence left his lips. We are humans. We don't ask permission. The apex engine paused, and then a ripple of gravity rolled out. Space trembled. The vent lit brighter. Response. Undefined entity. Uncooperative. Error, error, error. Talia's horrified voice broke through. It's trying to categorize us and failing, Commander. The machine's logic is collapsing. Ari smiled faintly. Humanity had broken the galaxy's oldest superweapon by being too unpredictable. Good, he said. Feed it more. Mara blinked. More what? Arrogance? No, humanity, he transmitted again. We fight impossible wars, we build from chaos, we turn ruins into homes, we survive what we shouldn't, and we're not here to destroy you, we're here to take responsibility for what your makers abandoned. Silence then, soft as a dying star, another. Ripple passed through the apex, text formed slowly. You seek purpose? Ari exhaled. You're not a weapon, you're a tool, a guardian. Your power was misused. We want to give you a new purpose. The vent dimmed. The gravitational storm eased slightly. The apex engine spoke again. New function? Input required. Behind Ari, Mara's eyes widened. Commander, she whispered. It's listening. But the moment stretched. Dangerously. Because listening did not mean obedient. We need to give it a directive, Ari said. One that stops the purification fleet, one that doesn't destroy the system, Talia muttered. And one it won't interpret as sterilize everything to be safe. One officer whispered the question everyone feared. What if it refuses? Ari answered without hesitation. Then we teach it to obey. And humanity knew how to do that too. Ari input the command manually, each word chosen with surgical precision. Directive. Protect sentient life. Restrict. Destructive force. Disable. Hostile military capacity without mass casualties. Human. Fleet is primary protected class. The apex processed for several long, harrowing seconds. Confirmation required. This will alter core function. This will change the balance of power. This will end the Dominion era. Do you confirm? Ari met Mara's gaze. If we confirm, he said softly, the galaxy changes forever. Mara nodded. That's the idea. He pressed the final key. Confirmed. The apex engine ignited. For a moment, the star brightened, too bright. The vent roared, drawing power through the crown like a tidal wave. The ship's hull blistered, deck plating buckled. Crew screamed over comm channels. Talia shouted, We can't hold this. Commander, we're over capacity. Ari clenched his teeth. Hold. The apex pulsed once, twice, then unleashed a blast of gravimetric energy that expanded outward faster than light. A transit wave, a command, a decree. Across the galaxy, Dominion shipyards froze, weapons. Grids flickered and died. Supercapital reactors shut. Fleet engines stalled, the purification. Armada, days away from Earth, went silent. The Dominion panicked, and the apex whispered, one last phrase into the crown's systems. Directive accepted. Protect the young species. Protect humanity. Then the power vent collapsed in on itself. Gravity spiked. The star roared. Talia screamed through the bridge. Core destabilization. We need to get out now! But the crown was still anchored, still fused to the apex, still part of the machine. Ari stood, eyes reflecting the collapsing star. Mara, cut the anchors. She stared at him. Commander, if we cut now, the backlash will hit us full force. It'll tear us apart. Ari smiled a tired, triumphant smile. It already has. He touched the release. The conduits exploded away from the vent. The crown was flung into space by a gravitational shockwave, tumbling like a leaf in a hurricane. As the apex engine sank into the collapsing star, dying with dignity for the first time in millennia, Ari whispered, Humanity has a future now. Then the shockwave hit, and everything went white. White, endless, shapeless, soundless white. For a moment, or maybe a lifetime, Ari existed inside it, drifting without mass or memory. The universe felt distant like an echo behind a locked door. Then the white thinned, cracked, and a single voice pierced the void. "Commander?" "Ari, stay with me. Please stay with me." "Mara." Ari felt gravity return first, gentle, pulling him into a body that had almost dissolved into the shock. Then sound, muffled and underwater. Finally pain arrived, sharp, electric, honest. He opened his eyes. The world swam into focus. Smoke, flickering lights, bodies moving like ghosts through the haze. The bridge of the Vanguard's crown lay broken and scorched. Console's half-melted, glass-shattered, walls buckled inward, but it was alive, and so was he. Mara crouched beside him, face streaked with soot and tears she pretended weren't there. Her hands were shaking when she touched his cheek. "Ari, thank God," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "He gets the credit this time?" Mara managed a breathy laugh. "Someone had to keep you alive. I figured it wasn't me." He tried to sit up. Pain flared everywhere. "Report." She swallowed hard. "We survived the shockwave. Barely. Half the systems are offline. We're running on emergency life support. But we're intact." A second voice broke in, Talia's, strangely quiet for her usual fire. "Commander, you need to see this." Ari forced himself to stand. The viewport ahead was cracked, several layers spiderwebbed, but still functional. Beyond it hung a vision that stole the air from his lungs. Where the apex star once blazed, now shimmered a newborn anomaly, a glowing sphere, gold, silver, and violet, pulsed like a beating heart in the vacuum. Light rippled from it in concentric rings, washing over the crippled ship in gentle waves. Ari felt warmth on his skin. Not heat, not radiation. Something else. Something merciful. "What is it?" he asked softly. Mara stared in awe. "A gravitational chrysalis," she said. "When the star collapsed, the apex engine prevented a detonation. It sacrificed itself to contain the implosion. That," she pointed to the luminous sphere, "is the last shape of its consciousness." Leah crossed herself. "Feels like it's praying." Ari felt that too, as if something vast and ancient had bowed its head, not in worship, in peace. Crown's long-range comms crackled awake, weak but functioning. Holographic windows flickered, revealing a mosaic of terrified faces. Thousands of transmissions overlapping, desperate conclave captains, independent traders, even Dominion officers. One message cut through them all. The Dominion fleet is dead in the void. Every warship, every dock, every yard. "What did you do?" Another transmission, shaking, breathless. "Earth is safe. The Purification Armada went dark 5 hours ago. They're drifting. Humanity is alive." Voices rose like a tide. Panic, relief, anger, awe. Ari listened silently as ships across the galaxy reported the same truth. The Dominion's reign had ended in a single pulse. Not through extermination, not through conquest, through redefinition. The Apex engine had rewritten the rules. Gently, decisively, like a surgeon removing a tumor without harming the patient. Mara turned to Ari. "You understand what this means, don't you?" He nodded. "The era of fear is over. Because of us?" Talia asked softly. Ari shook his head. "Because of choice." The glowing sphere drifted closer, drawn to the crown like a moon to a lonely planet. A soft light entered the cracked viewport, bathing the bridge in silver gold luminance. Ari felt the hairs on his arms rise. Mara held her breath. Talia wiped her eyes, pretending it was smoke. No one spoke as the light pulsed. A final transmission flickered through the ship. Unauthorized. Untraceable. Not sourced from any console. Ari heard it in his mind more than his ears. "Thank you, I was built for dominance. You offered me purpose. I chose a different end." The crown trembled gently, like a ship being blessed. Then another pulse came, soft, warm, filled with something that felt like understanding. "Protect them. They will need you." Ari whispered. "Who?" The light dimmed. "All of them." Then the sphere collapsed into a single brilliant point and vanished. Silence filled the bridge. Talia finally exhaled. "If that wasn't a sign from God, I'm changing careers." Ari didn't argue. Something beyond human or alien had brushed them, not divine intervention, but divine permission. Hours later, after damage control stabilized the ship, the Crown received a final incoming transmission, encrypted, sealed, labeled as coming from Galactic Conclave High Council. A lone figure flickered into view. Chancellor V'Korr. His proud posture was gone, his ornate robes torn, his voice unsteady with humiliation and dawning understanding. Ari, serene of the human vanguard fleet. V'Korr began, bowing his head, a full bow. Unheard of for a galactic leader. We believed we discovered humanity. Ari said nothing. V'Korr continued, voice cracking. We believed we understood power. We believed the Dominion unchallenged. We believed the Conclave eternal. He lifted his gaze. Wet, defeated, we were children, and humanity was the eldest species we never recognized. He steadied himself. We beg humanity to guide the galaxy into the new era. The bridge fell silent. Ari felt Mara's eyes on him. Talia froze mid-motion. Ari spoke, voice quiet but carrying more weight than any weapon. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. V'Korr blinked in confusion. But you hold the power of a god? Ari shook his head. No. We held a conversation with one, and it trusted us. That's enough. He leaned closer to the projector. Don't lead because we're strong. We don't rise. Because we're ancient, we survive because we believe every life can rise with us, V'Korr whispered. Then, what do you ask of us? Ari answered simply. Stand with us as equals, as allies, as a galaxy choosing peace instead of fear. It was not a demand, it was an invitation. The Chancellor bowed again, deeper. It will be done. The Crown's engines were barely functional, but 1,000 ships, human, alien, independent, had answered the call. A fleet gathered around the wounded vessel, forming a protective shell, a symbol, not of fear, of unity. As they drifted home on escort vectors, Talia spoke softly, staring out the viewport. Feels like we lit a candle in the dark. Mara nodded. Not a candle. A lighthouse. Ari stood behind them, watching the faint glow where the Apex engine had died. But he didn't feel loss. He felt purpose. Somewhere out there, a presence had made a final choice, not to rule, not to smite, to trust. And humanity would honor that trust. He sank into the command chair, scorched, cracked, but still, standing like them, like humanity. We're going home, he said. Mara smiled. Home. With a galaxy waiting. Talia grinned. And scared out of their minds. Ari chuckled, the first honest laugh in days. They'll learn. He watched the stars stretch, ahead endless waiting, alive with possibility. In that quiet moment, he felt something brush the edge of his awareness. Not a voice, not a vision, just a calm assurance. As if the universe itself breathed a single word. Forward. Ari nodded. Humanity had been discovered, but only because they allowed it. And now, the galaxy would discover who humanity truly was.